Hello, I'm Claire Smith. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm basically going to roast myself. I have totted up the number of bottles of perfume I've bought this year. I've totted up the amount of money that I've spent on perfume this year, and also the number of bottles that I've used up and the number of bottles that I've decluttered. And I'm just going to take you through those numbers and show you what I found out basically about myself and about my collection and how I buy perfumes and how that's affected my finances. I've never seen anyone admit how much money they are spending on perfume, and I think that might be a really interesting video. This might be a really bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't be sharing. Maybe this is oversharing. But I just feel like I see a lot of new channels on YouTube, and I was a new channel this time last year, and I just wanted to impart some sums for them, basically, to show them how many perfumes that I've ended up buying through being involved in YouTube. And I really do feel like YouTube has made me buy more perfume than I otherwise would. Through watching YouTube during lockdown and through also just being part of the YouTube community, you just hear more about perfumes. You watch other people's videos, you see these new releases, you get interested in different perfumes, and you have that FOMO, you have that fear of missing out on other things that other people talk about. I buy a lot of secondhand perfume because I'm just one of those people who believes that if you can buy something secondhand and it's going to be saving you some money, then that is a better thing to do for both your finances and for the environment. So you've got to bear in mind that the amount I've spent on perfume for the amount I've bought is probably going to be a lot less than most people on YouTube will have been spending. And I realise that this is a touchy subject because really, your own finances are your own business. But I just wanted to be completely transparent and honest about how much this costs. I also think there's something else in this, because when I watch a video and I see someone hauling like 10 perfumes, even me, as someone who does perfume hauls themselves and understands how much stuff costs, even I just don't even add it up in my head. I don't think, oh, that person spent like, I don't know, £1,000 on perfume for this one video or whatever. And why don't I? It's because I love watching haul videos. It's because I love watching declutter videos. It's because I'm in that mindset on YouTube of watching those types of videos and enjoying them without ever considering any thought process behind them. So that's the reason basically that I'm making this video. So if you do enjoy this kind of content, then please consider subscribing if you haven't done already, and please press the like button, and I'm going to get on with the video. So just as a bit of background, when I first started my YouTube channel, I had a small collection of perfumes. I had maybe, I don't know, somewhere between about 15 and 20 perfumes. Not loads, but not a tiny collection either for someone without a channel. And yeah, I'd always been into perfumes, but I'd always restricted myself. I'd always been very careful to try and use up as many as possible before buying new ones, and I just kind of let myself go. I let myself enjoy more scents and not worry so much about finishing every last drop. So right now my perfume collection's at about between 85 and 90 fragrances. To buy 70 perfumes in only sort of 16, 17 months is an absolutely crazy amount of buying. So how many of those did I actually buy in 2021? And when did I buy them? So I'm going to scoot over to the side, and then we're going to put some graphs up so you can see, because I'm a scientist and I like to do things properly around here. So the first graph I'm going to put up is my buying habits. So these are the number of bottles that I've bought over the past year. So as you can see, in January I went a bit crazy, and that caused me to then go on a no buy in February and March. And you can see there I stuck to it nicely. I didn't buy anything. Then I restarted buying again in April, and I really do feel like I went a bit crazy. In May, I felt like I was going to lose my job. I'd been given 3 months notice. I was writing job applications, and I felt like, why am I buying all this fragrance? This is crazy. But also the shops in the UK had reopened, and I remember buying one fragrance in particular and feeling so guilty about buying it that I actually instantly resold it. And that, looking back, it really makes me think, like, was I in the depths of some kind of buying addiction because of that kind of behaviour, that real feeling of guilt over buying something. You can also see from the graph that I tend to buy more when I've got more time off work. So You can see in July and August, when I had my holiday, you can see that my purchasing did go up. And you can see as well that there's been a bit of a downward trend from July onwards. And I think that is because I have just come to realise that I need to be more selective about what I'm buying. So perhaps through trying more perfumes, I've found out what my scent profile is. I've found out what I like and what I don't like. And I've found out where the holes are missing in my collection and where they aren't. And that is sort of shown by my declining purchasing. I think it's also reflecting the fact that I'm sampling more. So people are sending me samples and I'm getting to try more perfumes. And I think that's it, because if you're trying new perfumes, then you're getting that new perfume hit without actually buying a new bottle. So if you think about it, 47 perfumes over 12 months works out to about 4 per month. So that's really nearly 1 per week. And that to me is absolutely astounding. Considering that I did buy 47 bottles of perfume this year, it's kind of crazy that I made a perfume video back in January talking about how long it takes to use up a perfume. So I worked out that if you use a perfume at 5 sprays per day, then that bottle of perfume will last you 122 days. So that is about 4 months. So actually only with heavy use are you actually going to make any kind of dent in your perfume collection. I think really ultimately this shows you that perfume is about want. Perfume is not a need. A perfume is a desire. A perfume is something that represents a joy to me. It's something that I find is escapism. That's why I've been buying so much perfume this year. So let's move on to see what's happened to those perfumes that I bought this year. So if you look at this graph, you can see the number of perfumes that I've decluttered from each of these months. So these declutters represent the perfumes that I've bought in that month being removed from my collection. They're not declutters based on other purchases prior to 2021, only perfumes bought in that month. I also show you the number of perfumes that I've used up from the perfumes that I've bought in each month. So you can see in January, I actually decluttered 3 of the perfumes that I bought. And that suggests to me that I was buying in a very unfocused manner, that I was perhaps buying things just because of their price, perhaps not buying things that I particularly wanted, just randomly buying. And that's harmful behaviour basically, because you're not getting joy from not wanting them. You can see as well with my declining purchasing that I'm now decluttering fewer of those perfumes. So you can see in the more recent months, there have been no declutters based on those purchases, which I think reflects perhaps my more considerate purchasing behaviour. You can also see on this graph that I've actually used up a couple of these perfumes, and I would say that those perfumes were probably part used bottles, so that's perhaps not really indicative of my perfume usage overall. So next let's look at empties. So I have a dedicated perfume empties video, but I'm just going to show you the stats here of the perfume bottles that I've emptied over the year. So you can see towards the beginning of the year, my usage was more steady. I was using up about a perfume a month. And then something seemed to happen that went a bit weird. And you can see that there's not really a predictable amount of empties from month to month, really, from August on. It just seems a bit random. So breaking down my declutters next, you can see that I, in total, decluttered 10 perfumes this year. And out of those 10, 8 of them have been sold. And I'm very pleased about that. And I still have 1 left to sell, and 1 of them has stayed because it was a sentimental perfume. It was one that my dad had bought me, and I couldn't get rid of it because it just makes me think of him. So I'm going to put pictures up of those perfumes that I decluttered now, and the ones that I've still got left, and the one that I've kept. So next I'm going to look at, when I declutter my perfumes, do I make back what I spend? So here are a few examples of some perfumes that I've decluttered. So the first one is actually an interesting case. So this is the perfume that I felt super guilty about buying in May when I felt like I was going to lose my job. So I saw Eau Croisière 2019, which was super rare even back in early 2021. And I couldn't resist it. It was I think it was something like £17.50 in a sale in House of Fraser when they reopened, and I was just so excited to see it. I bought it instantaneously. And yeah, then I felt super guilty about it because I've got 2020 and I'd sort of promised myself I wasn't going to collect every single perfume of every single house, because that way only leads to craziness and perfume collections that fill entire rooms. And I don't want to be like that, basically. So yeah, I felt so guilty that I immediately resold that one. But when you look at the amount of money that I made on that perfume, that technically paid for 2 other perfumes. So that was a really positive thing for me to do, because, you know, it alleviated my guilt, and it also taught me a valuable lesson that perhaps if you buy a very rare perfume, you can sell it at a massive profit. You can see overall that I don't make that much from different perfumes. There are some that are rarer, so perhaps there's been a formulation that's been discontinued. For example, with Gucci Rush, they've entirely changed the notes to that perfume now, so people are searching for the original formulations. Or perfumes have been discontinued, such as Marc Jacobs Honey, so they're just more saleable basically. You're just more likely to be able to sell a perfume that has been discontinued because people are still looking for it and they can't buy it elsewhere, so they're more likely to look for it secondhand. And then there are other perfumes like CK Into You Her, where I made actually a slight loss, and those are perfumes that are generally on the cheaper end of the scale, that are quite ubiquitous, that are quite easy to come across quite cheaply from new, that probably people aren't going to consider buying secondhand unless they're dirt cheap. There's also another perfume on this list that says coming to a fragrance declutter to you soon, so I'm not going to mention what that one is because I want to save that for my declutter video when I make it, when I finally work out what I'm decluttering and what I'm keeping, because you know I'm quite an indecisive person. So the next slide is probably the one you've all been waiting for. This is my breakdown of my spend on perfume per month. And you can see that the spend is quite variable actually. And over the course of the year, in total, I have spent a total of £496.03. So that's nearly £500. So that's about a £10 spend per week. And that, you know, that's £40 a month. That's what can you do with £40 in a month? You can probably go out for a nice meal, can you, with a couple? You could probably take your husband or your partner out for a meal, perhaps, probably a cheap meal, but you know, a meal out basically is £40 a month, isn't it? Or it might be a weekly shop for 2 of you, perhaps, possibly. For £40 a month it's not tiny, it's not insignificant. But when you think about how many perfumes you can buy from new for £40, I would say you could probably only buy 1 from new, perhaps 2 if you're buying super cheap perfumes. But even celebrity perfumes, most of them start around £20-25 now. So actually buying secondhand is probably allowing me to buy more perfume. And then also looking at where I've spent the most money, you can see that I did spend more money in May. That's what caused the extreme perfume guilt, and that's what caused me to instantly resell that Mugler perfume because of that feeling of having spent too much. And you can see in more recent months my perfume spending has been decreasing, but I would also say that I've been buying more perfumes from new. So perhaps buying perfumes from new rather than from secondhand is better for me because perhaps I make more considered purchases and buy fewer of them. I'd also like to look at the amount of money that I've recouped from reselling perfumes because I feel like that has really cut the amount of money overall that I've spent. When you look at the net amount I've spent, it's much less than the amount I've spent in gross. So reselling perfumes has actually gained me back over £200, £232.85 back I've had after fees and after packaging costs and every other cost that I have associated with reselling perfumes. Which means that my net cost to me for perfumes this year was £263.18, which when you work it out over a year is actually not that much money. It's only about £20 a month, maybe £22 a month-ish. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I don't know whether this is a good idea to make or not. Maybe people don't want to watch this kind of thing, but I find it kind of fascinating to analyse my own behaviours and to learn from this because I want to spend more of my time next year sampling. I want to spend more of my time being more considered with my purchases, making everything in my collection something that I love to wear, something that I'm excited to use, and I don't want to be buying in unfocused ways anymore. I want to be buying things that I truly love, and I want to try to learn from these stats, try to learn from my analyses basically. So if you've enjoyed this video, please press the like button and please consider subscribing if you haven't done already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!